Greetings. In this part of the discussion, we spoke about how the Lord kicked the Israeli Jews out of Palestine at the hands of the Babylonians, the Assyrians, and now the Israelis are spread as slaves in miserable slavery between Babylon, Assyria, and Persia. And now Persia is the empire, is the big man in this area, Middle East and the Near East. Very well. Now, in Persia, there was something, they call her a beautiful, very beautiful, an Israeli woman. Beautiful, attractive. And her uncle Mordechai used to work as a doorman at the door of the castle of the king of Persia those days, Cyrus. Now, this Mordechai is a demon, an evil, rotten demon, devil. He planned carefully. He knew that his niece is so beautiful, so he planned an evil plan. And he made with bribe and money and so on, he moved from the door outside on the streets, doorman, to inside the castle, and became one of the very close servant to the king, Cyrus. He used to serve him food and wine. And then one day, he gave money to the servants around the castle to tell the king a lie, that the queen is cheating him, the wife of Cyrus. So Cyrus, prepared a party, and he got drunk with his prime minister and, the closest, among his friends. And he called on his wife, and he faced her with those accusations. Anyway, to make a long story short, this led to the death of the queen, with the planning of this stupid devil, demon, Mordechai, an Israeli Jew. So now Mordechai moved to the next step in his plans. He started telling the servant with bribery and money to whisper in the ears of Cyrus that you shouldn't be left alone. You should have a wife. You are a king, an emperor, the emperor on an empire, Persia. And they started telling him, let us make a party and bring, all the beautiful women in the country, and you choose from them, whoever you wish. So they did. So Mordechai made sure that his niece joined the women. And Cyrus, looking at the women one by one, until he saw her name was Esther, a harlot, an Israeli harlot, Jew. And they have a book in the Jewish book, the book of Esther. And we will find out why. Why this harlot, had a book in the Israeli Jewish book. So once Cyrus saw Esther, he was taken. He was attracted so bad. So he chose her as his concubine, not wife. He said, after the death of my wife and she cheated me, I'm not marrying again. So concubine, a harlot. So during this period, Cyrus, started to fall in love so bad with Esther. This was according to the plans of Mordechai. He planned all this. He told her what to do. And now Cyrus became like a ring in her hand. She can twist it any way she wants. Take it out, put it on, play games with it, throw it up, catch it, and so on. So he became like a toy. Cyrus became like a toy in the hands of this harlot, Esther. Then the prime minister, some say his name was Haman, but I'm not so sure about that. Asking around in the kingdom, so he was told that the Israeli Jews are committing a lot of crimes, corruption, and doing a lot of evil work. So he went to Cyrus with those news. So Cyrus issued an order and placed it on a paper, royal paper, stamped with the emperor's stamp. All Israelis should be put to death. Mordecai found out. So Esther came to visit Mordecai, her uncle. She found him crying and rolling over the ground. She said, "What's wrong? What's going on?" So he told her, "We are all going to die. You and your people will die. And this is what's going on." So he planned, again, in his satanic brain. And he managed, in a party, to make the king drunk. And then Esther came and she said, "Your prime minister is flirting with me. He wants me for himself. He asked me to leave you and be with him." So the prime minister was shocked. "I did nothing of kind." But Cyrus was so drunk. So he ordered for this prime minister to be put to death. Esther came to Cyrus and said, "He lied to you and he said the Israelis, my people, are doing all those crimes. He was a rotten man." So Cyrus deleted that order. And the Israeli Jews were saved. You understand now why Esther has a book in what they sacred, in the Jewish Tanakh or Christian Old Testament. Now, this trick continued until Esther convinced Cyrus to send the Israeli Jews back to Palestine from both lands, Persia and what's called today Iraq, Babylon. Now, during this slavery time, there was a man named Ezra. And this man, during slavery, he used to go to the old people among the Israeli Jews, and he used to ask them, "What do you remember from the Torah?" What? And from the Zabur. The Torah and the Zabur. Zabur, the books of David and the books of Moses. So he used to collect, information from the old people, the Israeli Jews. Now, what was the state of those Israeli Jews in captivity, thrown out of Palestine? The God of Israel is punishing them. He uprooted them with joy from the Holy Land, and now they are miserable, after Babylon, now Persia. They were all about to be annihilated and die, put to death. So he took information from people who hate God so much. This is why the rotten book, the Old Testament or the Tanakh, what Jews and Christians call Scripture, insulted every man of the Lord and insulted God, full with insults. Now the rotten, evil Zionists in the West, they say, "Oh, this showed the truthfulness of the book, that it is true. Otherwise, this will be removed from the book. It will not stay there." No, this shows how rotten That book is insulting every man of the Lord. So bad. So this is the collection of the information found in the Jewish book today. From sick people in slavery, under hardship, who hate God so much. Later on, this Ezra becomes, the man who knows the Sharia of God, the man who knows the book of the Lord. So, from the first book, well, only in Genesis, first part of Genesis was written by some rabbis, Jewish rabbis, in the 1500s. But after what the rabbis did, especially about, how creation was formed, the rest of the information until the book of Ezra, that's about 700 pages in some versions, all are from what Ezra collected from the sick people under slavery who hate God so much. And he became the one, so knowledgeable about the law of the Lord. So, this is why we have a rotten book today that insults every man of the Lord. It insults, Adam, making him a silly old fool, saying, the woman that you put with me here, she gave me and I ate, so blame yourself, don't blame me. You put this woman here with me. Noah, was drunkard and got naked in his bed, and one of his sons, Ham, saw him, so he placed a curse on Ham. Such a stupid story about the man, because Ham is the mortal enemy, the father of the Canaanites, the Palestinians, mortal enemy to the Israeli Jews. So when they gave the story, they gave a bad story about Ham, the father of the Canaanites, the Palestinians. And then Abraham lied 2 times. Then his son Isaac lied 1 time, saying their wives were their sisters, afraid for their lives, cowards, selling the flesh of their wives, for some donkeys and monkeys. And the story is so bad. And then Jacob, kicked the ass of their God in the desert, in the middle of nowhere. Go read it under the title, Jacob, fighting with God. All such, David, the great David. He committed porn with Bathsheba, the wife of Uriah the Hittite, then sent her husband to die, made sure that her husband died in the wars between the Israelis and the Palestinians, put him in front, and then he took his wife he married his wife and brought from her Solomon, according to some verses in the book. Imagine that. Imagine that. So everything came out rotten from what Ezra collected from the brains of sick people under slavery and punishment from God of Israel. So they revenged in their own way, the only way they can. Gave false information, lies about God of Israel. And this Ezra, who used to be a bartender, he used to pour wine for the king back in Babylon, now became the man of the Lord who knows about the Sharia of the God of Israel, the man of the law of God, because he made them a book after their books were burned by the Babylonians. Solomon was the one who created the language, Hebrew language. All those lies, that Abraham was a Hebrew, this is a lie, stupid lie. Abraham was from the Chaldeans, from the city of Ur in Babylon, and he spoke Chaldeans. Then his son Isaac did. Then Jacob and Esau and the children of Jacob all spoke Chaldeans. When they went to Egypt, they learned the holographic Egyptian language. There were no need for a language, for the people. Not yet. Hebrew is a language of the Israeli Jews. In Egypt, they were speaking Egyptian language. Now, when they came to Palestine, and then Solomon had an empire, but his people some speak holographic, some speak Chaldeans, Aramaic. So he said, what's going on? A nation with no language? So the wisest of the wise, he created the Hebrew language. And he translated the Torah of Moses and the book of David into Hebrew. And all those stupid who say that Psalms is the book of David, they are lying. He wasn't a singer. He was a great man. And he had a book from the Lord. He received a book from the Lord. But this is a different topic for a different time. So everything written in Hebrew, the translation of the Torah, the translation of the book of David, all the Babylonians burned down. Every single thing that had Hebrew on it, they burned. And they destroyed the temple. Not the temple, the house of worship Solomon built. Solomon built a house of worship, not a temple. In their book, they say that they moved the gold from the temple of Solomon into the temple of Babylon. So temple is a Babylonian name for their houses of worship for the idols. Not what Solomon built. This is a lie, a huge lie. Jews and Christians keep repeating. Solomon built a big house of worship. What is stupidly called mosque, house of mosquitoes? No, it is a masjid, a house of bowing and kneeling to the Lord Almighty. Like a Muslim. He was a Muslim. This is what Quran tells us. That came 1400 years back. So we're not going to listen to your evil lies that this is not the truth. I challenge you to prove me wrong. If you wish, you can try. If you are fool enough. Okay. So, every single book that they had, written in Hebrew, in the language that Solomon invented, which is close to Aramaic and Arabic, were destroyed. And the house of worship Solomon built was destroyed. So what about the temple that they have today? Jewish temple, they call it the Jewish temple, after the naming of the Babylonians for their houses of worship. We'll talk about that in the next video, inshallah. Very well. So at this point, they managed to come back. They're planning to build a temple. The Jews, in their ignorance, and the Zionist Christians, not all the Christians are Zionists. They are saying that this is the second temple, because the first built by Solomon was the first temple. They built the second temple that was destroyed by Christian Rome, and now Israelis are back to build the third temple. And I wish if they will survive that long to build that third temple they plan to do. But in fact, it's going to be the second temple, because the first one was not a temple. It was a masjid, a house of worship for Muslims from the Israeli Jews. Very well. So we'll continue next time. When they came back, what did they do? And how this return happened, and the lies that God promised to bring them back. Take care.